My name is Professor Kaitano Dube. I'm an Associate Professor of Tourism Geography at the Vaal University of Technology in the Ecotourism Department. I'm a C2 rated NRIF researcher with a passion in tourism, climate change, sustainability, and also aviation tourism. There is a dual nexus between tourism and climate change. So in many respects, tourism activities are dependent on certain climate or weather parameters. A lot of tourism activities also have impact on climate change. So when you think of going to the beach, one of the things that, for example, that you'd look at is what is the weather conditions, what is the wind, and that sort of influences whether you can go. So weather controls a lot of tourism activities that people undertake. For the past 10 years, we have seen, I think, a build-up in terms of people keen to understand how various tourism destinations, particularly in Africa, are going to be affected by climate change. If you look at the concentration in terms of tourism and climate change, a lot of work has been done, particularly in the Southern Africa. So we have a fairly good understanding of how tourism is going to affect climate change. But I think there's still a lot of knowledge gaps, and we're trying to address this by trying to relook at our tourism curriculum so that it covers those broader aspects. But most importantly, I think there's also a big debate about climate change mitigation. So if you look at the entire tourism spectrum, sectors and subsectors, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of climate change mitigation. But what we know is that if our primary tourist destinations are affected, this tends to have adverse impact on in terms of tourism numbers, of which we can actually translate that into potential economic losses. So the economic losses are there, both in terms of assets, but also most importantly, we have seen losses in terms of biodiversity, the natural heritage actually being lost, and these can actually be quantified in terms of the social and also the economic value of those assets. The policy framework is there, but I think one of the biggest challenges that I foresee is in terms of the adoption. Some of the technologies have been quite expensive, but we're seeing, I think, a lot of technologies become available at a cheaper rate, which ensures their uptake. I remember a few years back, I assisted the Eswatini government to sort of develop their policy framework, and tourism was one of the issues that was in the forefront. And also, if you look at globally, tourism is identified as one of the key sectors that can assist in terms of addressing climate change action. So we have policies, but we need to start seeing, I think, the offtake of some of the policy aspirations. The Day Zero, I think, in many respects was a wake-up call for the tourism industry in South Africa and also in the region, because what it did was to force a rethink in terms of the sector on how they can adopt technologies that ensures water efficiency. And when you've got water efficiency, you also have, in a way, energy efficiency. If you think about how you use your geyser, so if you've got technologies such as low-flow shower heads, those kind of technologies assist you in terms of reducing the amount that you use, but also reducing the energy consumption. In Southern Africa, I think we have seen, a lot of energy deficit, and that have sort of driven a lot of tourism enterprises to go green in terms of investment, particularly in solar technology, and also some tapping into the wind energy to ensure that the industry is green, so to speak. But if you also think about the transport sector, we have also seen the deployment of quite a number of airports where you have got solar farms that actually feeds into the energy system, so as to ensure that there is sort of a hybrid in terms of electricity that is actually used, and that have got implications on the carbon emissions that the country produces and also that is coming from the sector. If you look at the travel industry per se, I think if we can get more hybrid vehicles, if we can get more electric vehicles, that will assist in terms of reducing the carbon budget. If you go to most of our national parks, most of the vehicles that are used there, these are quite huge vehicles that are carbon intensive, and I think it's an area where we can actually tap into the electric vehicles, but also in terms of route planning, in terms of air traffic and navigation system, I think there's still a lot of issues, the route redesigning and rethinking to ensure that our routes, both in terms operationally they are efficient, but also we have got sustainable aviation fuel that we can use, and I understand that there's a lot of interest in that particular space. So I think there's a lot that can actually be done in terms of ensuring that there's that transition towards greening the aviation sector. If you also think about our airports, I think there's a lot that can be done in terms of rolling out renewable and sustainable energy at all our biggest terminals, so that we are at par with what the green tourist is looking for. As tourists, we also need to do our part. I travel a lot, but I make sure that I only carry one bag, especially if it is a domestic travel. But there is also a lot of technology that I've seen in this space, some that uses machine learning, some that use artificial intelligence. Sun City, where this event is going to be broadcast, there has been a huge deployment of solar panels that has been deployed. But in terms of the hotel management system, they've also deployed a system that is able to configure which rooms are being used, and then they can embark in terms of load reduction, which assists in terms of reducing the carbon emissions. So if you look at Sun City, I think they are on the right track in terms of ensuring that they've greened their operations.